Hey there. I figured I would get on and do a live, Instagram live, just because it's a super easy way to update. And so you guys could see me and I could say hi and just kind of give you an update on how today went. Sorry, the top of my head is hurting and sometimes it just feels better for a little counter pressure. But yeah, today was like the actual treatment. It was a really long day today just because of a couple of delays that really weren't anybody's fault. So I got there about 8:30, 8:25, and then I left about Adrian, you are so stinking cute. I love you. And Faith, gosh, I love you too, girly. And so I got home about, I think it was like about 4, and just went to bed. And then I woke up about 9:30 or so. And so anyway, so today at treatment was really hard, mostly because like all those smells and the mask smell and all that stuff just like gets me so gaggy. And I think I'm like really sensitive to the taste of the hey baby, to the, like when you get those in things and whatnot, like you can taste it in the back of your throat a little bit. And evidently I'm like super sensitive, or just, I think it's like in my head once it starts, and then I'm like, oh, such a weenie. And so, anyway, so I was super gaggy today, and was like dry heaving a bunch there, and bless their hearts. And so I'm in this like common area, and it's like there are these little like kind of stations each of us have, and like each station has like this like reclining chair and then like another chair and like your IV stand and a TV and like a countertop. But the countertop is like, below waist high. And so there's all these little stations, and you could see everybody, and the station across from you is facing you and everything else. So today was like really full. Bless their hearts. Today was really full. And I got a bag of fluids today. And she hooked me up to the bag of fluids, and no sooner than I got hooked up to those bag of fluids than my dumb tail was like, whoa! God. So here I am. I'm like, all these people around me, they're getting treatment too, and I'm here just gagging. So my nurse comes over, and she's so sweet and funny. God, she was funny. And Adrian, actually, she reminded me a lot of you, to tell you the truth. She was so funny, and just like really quick-witted. She was really funny. So anyway, she comes over and she's like, do you want me to move you to a room? Well, they're not really rooms. It's like another station that just has a curtain, and it has a bed there instead of a chair. It has like the recliner, and then it has a bed. And I was like, yeah, if you don't mind, that'd be great. Meanwhile, I'm gagging the whole time. Such a weenie. And so she helps me over there, bless her heart. And I'm like, all these poor people all getting treatment, and they get to have front row seat to the gagging chick right there. So she gave me an injection of some other anti-nausea medicine, I guess. And it's not really an injection like into your skin. It goes in through your IV, and it goes in through my port. Yeah, so today was just really hard because I just felt really queasy the whole time. But that's kind of like, I feel like a lot of it's like in my head, because, kind of like I wrote in that Caring Bridge post about like that Pavlov's dog kind of thing. I just feel like there's so much of it that's like that. And a lot of people relate it to like when they're pregnant and certain things made them sick when they were pregnant and they still get sick off of that. Or I've heard people say like, oh yeah, food poisoning, and whatever they got food poisoning off of, they just like can't ever eat it again. Well, to the best of my knowledge, I've never had food poisoning. And with my pregnancies, I didn't really have any solid aversions like that just plagued me for the rest of my life. Or I don't even remember stuff that really made me sick. I think toothpaste would make me gag, believe it or not. But I just didn't really have that. So this is kind of my first time having that kind of experience. And so just going in that environment and like the smell of all of it, like just that sterile smell, and having to have the mask on. And I believe in support mask wearing. I'm not saying I don't believe in supporting it. And it's just that the smell of the mask, and it just gets to me. And so, today I really try really hard to be very present and in the moment. And so when I'm there, I'll even watch the stuff go in my IV, and I try to be very engaged in it in my head and like very attentive to kind of be communicating with my body, if that doesn't sound too hocus pocusy. But today, my nurse even was like, don't look. And I was like, yeah, I think I'm on board with that today. And so I was like, okay, I need a distraction. And so just like chatting her up, and her name was Ashlyn, or her name still is Ashlyn, actually. I don't think she's changed it in the couple hours since her work shift. So she was just so funny. And I was like, so you got any hidden talents? Like you good at karaoke or something? And she was like, actually, I'm really good at accents. And I was like, stop it. And she said, yeah, the Real Housewives of New York or whatever. I said, I know the show. I've heard of the show, but I don't watch it. And she said, oh, this character, whatever. And I was like, give it a shot, man. So she started doing that accent, and she was really, really good, really good. And so that distracted me for a while. And then it was like, oh, you play card games. And she referenced this card game that she and her grandmother used to play. I hadn't heard of it before. And, so then because when they're doing the Adriamycin, they have to sit there, like I've told you guys before, they have to sit there and actually manually inject this Adriamycin. And so, she's sitting there and the whole time, so I'm like, I just need a distraction from the Adriamycin. So then when she left, and then the rest of my chemo drugs are on drip, they're on the IV fluid. So they just manually, not manually, you know what I'm saying? Y'all know how IV works. So it's just dripping those medicines. And so I was like, oh man, I need a distraction. So I pulled up YouTube, and I have this little closet obsession with watching like those little AGT clips, or The Voice, or Brit's Got Talent, or what else is there? All those other little shows, because the human story and all those things is always really cool to me. And watching people have their dreams, go after their dreams is wicked cool. And seeing that kind of snapshot that's really a culmination of a life story is just pretty cool. And so it's kind of easy for me to get distracted and kind of swept away. And because I just love the human story. I love, hearing, and, like Faith, seeing you at the game on Friday and having you come over, and I just love you to pieces, and talk about where you were headed and what you were going on, and this is what you're doing now. And, those pieces of that human story are just, to me, it's just like, gosh, that's just like oxygen. So, what else? So yeah, it was just, ugh, ugh. But the good thing is, like, my oncologist switched up a bunch of stuff today, because even though I said, like, hey, I feel like I'm on the good end of the spectrum on my response. So, like, even though the Adriamycin was hard, and it was hard those 2 weeks, and, last week it had some difficulties, but I definitely was able to get a bunch of stuff done. So anyway, even though it's hard, I still realize that, like, I've got it way better, like, even than the average bear, so even the average response, I'm doing even better than the average response. And so I'm really, really blessed and fortunate and super grateful to you guys for your support and your thoughts, and that positive energy and those prayers are really making a difference. And so I just really appreciate you guys being along for this, because I really believe it's making a big difference. And so anyway, so when I told my oncologist, all the things, and she's like, I agree with you. You are having a really good response, but I feel like we could really do a whole bunch of things to make this better. And I was like, okay, let me know your thoughts. Because my thing is like, it's chemo, so you're going to kind of feel like trash, and that's just kind of part of it. So I wasn't really thinking. And she's just like, the amount that you're dry heaving, I really want us to address that. And I just figured it was all those smelly things that just trigger me. And she's like, I think we need to address that. So anyway, today she gave me a bag of fluids, and she said she thinks that will probably help. And she last Adriamycin round, they cut my IV steroids in half, because steroids can adversely impact, suppress the immune system. And since I'm on the clinical trial, if I'm getting the atezolizumab, they really don't want to do anything suppressing my immune system. And so I was like, yeah, sure, totally, no problem. So she put my IV steroids back up, because the IV steroids are supposed to help with nausea. And so I told her, like, listen, if, I'm super cool for the clinical trial, whatever, I'm fine with leaving it at half. It wasn't fun, but also, it's, I think it's doable, So she was like, we're not doing that. So she did a bag of IV fluids. She took my steroids back up, and she changed my my IV anti-nausea medicine, because that one has a couple of side effects with it that she was thinking, sometimes you have to choose between having a headache and being nauseous. And so for me, it's really tough, because this isn't what I would describe as nausea. Nausea to me is like a little more chronic and like queasy. What this is like, I'll just be like gagging, like dry heaving for whatever catalyst there is. And then like separately, but not even simultaneously, separately, or sometimes it's simultaneous, but separately I'll have those stomach pains that I was talking about that are like really bad hunger pains. But I wouldn't qualify either of those as nausea, but I guess that's kind of what they qualify as nausea. I'm not really sure. Or maybe I'm just a goofball, which we all know that's true, so it's possible. Anyway, so she switched up my nausea medicine to be some different IV nausea medicine. And then on top of it today, like I said in the beginning, when I was gagging so much, and I told the nurse, and I said, because I said to her, like, I don't know how you all do all you do. You're like, I'm getting a hot flash, so if you notice that I'm getting pink, sorry. I said, I don't know how you guys do all that you do. Like, it's, you're like a flight attendant and a nurse and a maid and a server, and she said a butler, and I was like, yeah, therapist. And she's like, hey, and a comedian. And I was like, yes, you're absolutely a comedian. And so I had made that reference about the flight attendant piece earlier. By the way, flight attendants, I don't know how you do what you do either. God bless. And so as she's like helping me, she's like, okay, lean on me, because I was like all sorts of wobbly there for a second. And I said, sorry for making this trip a little more unpleasant for the other passengers. And so she was just really great about it, but bless their hearts. Um, so, anyway, I forgot what I was saying. Oh, I know what I was saying. So when she took me in there, and I told you she gave me that shot, gave me the shot in my IV for the nausea stuff. And so, so there was a lot of things that changed today that I think had a more positive impact on today. So I'll be excited to see how that carries over into tomorrow. So tomorrow morning I have the appointment with the plastic surgeon, and then tomorrow afternoon I'll have my Neulasta shot, and then Wednesday I'll have the other my second COVID vaccine. So the good news, I guess, about the second COVID vaccine is that sorry, my head's hurting. The good news about the second COVID vaccine is that my oncologist and I, we talked about it today, and just like not really concern, but like consideration for the possibility that I could have an not adverse, but like, how some people with the second COVID vaccine are having certain symptoms or whatever. And so one of them is like fever. Well, when you go through chemo and stuff, fever is a pretty intolerant line in the sand. Like, that is not moving. You have fever, you're going to the hospital. And so I just said to her, like, I really don't want to go to the hospital. She's like, I really don't want you going to the hospital. So the cool thing about it is that what we'll do if I run a fever is go to urgent care, which not crazy about urgent care either, but it's better than the hospital. So I'll go to urgent care if it's after hours or on the weekend. Or what we'll do is we'll run my labs first and see what my blood work actually looks like to try to discern if it's a reaction to the vaccine or if it's a fever for infection because my labs are low or whatever. And so if we can discern from the lab work that the reaction is, or that the fever is a reaction to, I don't know if reaction would be the right word, but you know what I'm saying, to the COVID vaccine, then basically it's go home, rest up, fluids, this will pass. But if it reflects something within my lab work, then chances are it's more closely related to something that needs to be addressed because of some, chemo compromise kind of thing. So it's exciting. I feel a lot better about having like a game plan for it because I really don't want to end up at the hospital. No offense to any hospital peeps right now, but don't want to go there. So that's that. And so my sister and I, I'm going to try and post some pictures. My sister Marion and I got a crap ton of projects done this week. It felt really good to kind of push my body that way and to do those things. It kind of is like when I'm doing those things, like I don't feel sick, if that makes sense. But then there's a lot of it. Like she's doing the vast majority of the work, but there's a lot of times that it's like, okay, I'm working, doing something, working, doing something, and then I'll get like lightheaded or, just like feel really weak out of the blue or something. And so it's just a matter of listening to my body and being like, okay, I gotta sit down, and then, she's really good about encouraging me to drink fluids because she's really good about that in her life. We got a lot of stuff done, like the front porch, got that kind of landscaped and kind of beautified, and got pavers put on either side we put pavers down on either side of the driveway because the driveway just like exactly fits 4 cars, and I had a bunch of pavers already, and we bought some other pavers to finish that so that it kind of widens the driveway a little bit and gives you space to get out of your car, and then put up like hummingbird feeders and stuff outside of the kitchen windows. And we rented an auger and dug some holes in the backyard and set 4x4 12-foot posts in concrete in the backyard to be able to hang a shade sail and hammocks, and did some other stuff back there, and it just felt really good. It felt really good to do that. Oh, and in the garage hung up all the tools and yard tools, things like that. Hung those all up, and then hung a pegboard and got the pegboard all situated and whatnot. So that felt really good. Yeah, the pegboard I did by myself. I was really proud. Using the circular saw and drill and everything else. I was like, I got it. So that was really good. But Friday, when I posted and said, I don't really feel good today, I'm not really sure why. When I was talking to my oncologist, she was like, most of my chemo. She's like, listen, because I said, I did a lot of outdoor work this week and got some sun, and it felt good to be outside, but I'm not sure if I overdid it a little bit. And she's like, yeah, you probably need to leave the gardening for another time. And I was like, when gardening? She was like, what were you doing? I was like, we rented an auger and dug posts and dug holes and set 4x4 12-foot posts in concrete. And she looks at me, she goes, yeah, none of my chemo patients are doing that. And I was like, well, I didn't feel like I was overdoing it. And so she said, well, that response you had Friday when you said you weren't sure why you felt so bad on Friday again, she said that's what it is. It's like that's your body's response to it. And I just kind of thought that your body's response would just be like you're wiped out or you're fatigued or something like that. I didn't know it would kind of like go retro on you and be like, hey, how about we just let you have a dose of that 2-week settle down-ness. So I wouldn't do it different. I know that sounds crazy, but I wouldn't do it differently. Like the mental and emotional and physical positive that I get out of it, I wouldn't do it differently. I wouldn't do that differently because it just was great. It was great being out there and feeling good, getting that stuff done, and it just feels good. So anyway, so I just figured I'd get on here and update. I hope this week goes well. Oh, I realized that in the other Facebook Live that I was about to tell you all in the beginning, I was going to tell you what Noah Monroe said about his little lacrosse analogy about going through chemo and Adriamycin, because as I said, he's a cancer survivor, and he's been in remission 5 years now, and so he and I had talked, and I was going to tell you all what he said, but then I kind of went into explaining all of it a little more so you'd have a better understanding. And so anyway, I thought it was hilarious and very appropriate for those of you in our lacrosse community that know these people or know lacrosse to be able to understand. But like in general, you can pretty much get it. But Noah said something to the effect of being on chemo and Adriamycin is like running down the field with the ball in lacrosse, like running down the field with the ball only to look up and see Seth Barnes coming at you. Seth's a defender, a very good defender. And Seth gives you a really good poke check, which poke checks can not be fun sometimes. And somehow you manage to, and you're just thinking like, oh gosh, here's Seth. I'm never going to get through this. And somehow you manage to escape, and then you're like, whew, I got out of it, only to be trucked by Britton Weems. So when you're like trucked by somebody, it's like they level you, So, And I was like, oh my gosh, you're so right. Like, that's exactly what it is. Like, you're looking at your week and you're dreading this thing and you're like, oh gosh. And it gives you a solid hit and you're like, holy crap. And then somehow it's like, oh, I feel better. I'm kind of And I just died laughing because that was such an effective analogy. It was so appropriate. So I went so much into explaining it and so that the analogy would make sense that I forgot to share the analogy. So I thought that that was very appropriate. And if you've never seen Seth or Britton play lacrosse, I'll tell you, you're missing out. So I've been watching those two since they were 9, and they've both been defenders. Well, Seth played, I think, since he was 8, maybe. I think Britton came on a year later. But they've both been defenders this whole time. That, I mean, I don't think I've ever seen Seth be in a position other than defender. And Britton's been defender and LSM, but that's also defense too. It's just a little different. It's just a little different, but it's defense too. And so they are very good at their craft, and they are a lot of fun to watch play. They're a lot of fun to watch play. They're both very like committed, and they're very focused. Their body language is very focused. Their skills are very precise. Their movements are very precise. Like, it's just really fun watching them. Like, you don't have to know a lot about the game. They really, watching them, they just kind of stand out. Their movements are different. Like, it's just really enjoyable watching them. And they're not, dramatic or mouthy players or disrespectful or poor sportsmanship. And so they're enjoyable to watch too, because none of that mess and getting dramatic with the refs or whatever else. That's just not really their jam. And so they're just had a lot of fun watching those two. So I thought it was really funny. That was really funny. And Noah has played with them for on and off for a long time too, because Noah started with Clash way back in the day, back then too, when he was like 8 or 9. And so he's a year older than them, but they ended up being on the same teams like every other year when the age things changed. So he's had a long-standing experience with them as well. So anyway, kind of rambly at this point. All the kids seem to be doing well. Dominic just had his 23rd birthday on the 27th. Insane that I have a 23-year-old, but he seems to be thriving. And Maylee is doing very well. Super, super proud of her. Super proud of her. Super proud of Dominic too, and Dominic and Nicole seem to be doing really well, so that's good. And really happy for them. And Maylee's doing really well and studying really hard and doing well in school, and so really, really proud of her. She's battling some TMJ stuff, but she's been working on all the physical therapy and stuff like that, so that TMJ stuff is no joke. I've never had it, but her popping is so stinking loud. It's like, it is super loud, and it sounds really painful. So you people who struggle with TMJ, bless your hearts, because that is some crazy stuff. And Britton's doing really well right now. He's only playing football because his other 2 seasons concluded, but he's seeming to enjoy that, and his football team is having a lot of success. And he's about to start track too, and his academic workload has been a lot. His academic workload has been a lot, so he's been under a little bit of stress and pressure. Well, a lot of stress and pressure because of that. But he's still really committed to his workout and his nutrition and his kind of like his body as a machine for performance and whatnot. So super proud of him. And he seems to be doing well. So he's really ready to have school be over, not for any negative, like, I hate school, not anything like that. Just like, geez, this is a lot right now. I'm ready for a break kind of thing. So maybe spring break coming up will be helpful. So maybe that'll be helpful, and then get him through. He's got 2 online classes and 2 in-person classes for high school. So, but anyway. All right, well, I have chitter-chattered on here for a while. I got my trusty sidekick here. Y'all could say hi to Sandy. Hey, Sandy. Sandy girl. She's like, forget you. I'm tired. She's so cute. So she, homegirl shares her bed with me, basically, because I have a king-size bed, and she will lay smack dab in the middle of the smack dab middle, horizontally. And I'm just like, look, now she's like, you're talking about me? I'm going to go to bed now. So, come on, you can say hi. Hey there, girl. Oh, I know, it's so difficult. It's so difficult. You say hi? That's my girl. There's my girl. So, anyway, bless her heart. She lays up there the whole time I'm laying up there, which is nice. So, all right, I'm going to let you guys go, and I'll probably post a Caring Bridge and post this link to it and upload this to Facebook and stuff so everybody can see it if they're interested. And other than that, I love you guys very much. And I'll talk to you later, Gator.